welcome to MS4. And tonight I really wanted to play with makeup. I had a stressful day at work and all I wanted to do was just put my fingers in Pat Mcgrath eyeshadows. So here we are. Now I'm gonna start out and talk to you about how I feel about what's going on with this Pat Mcgrath and Star Wars collaboration, why I think people are so conflicted about it. And then I just want to talk geeky stuff while I put on some makeup, and then we'll do some comparisons and talk about what I might end up picking up that I didn't pick up initially from the launch, and then why I won't pick up some of the other things that I'm still very much feeling like I don't need. So anyway, let's get started. So here's the infographic. So what I feel like is going on with this is that you've got a Venn diagram of Star Wars fans and Pat Mcgrath fans. And it's a very mixed bag with each of these. You've got people who are simply just Star Wars fans and people who are just simply Pat Mcgrath fans. And then you have people who are just Pat Mcgrath collectors and people who are just Star Wars collectors. And then you have people who are both lovers of Pat Mcgrath and lovers of Star Wars, and some of them are collectors also, and some of them are not collectors. So as you're going back and forth between these, I am definitely a lover of Star Wars. I'm a complete and total geek in many ways for many, many years of my life. I have recently become a fan of some of Pat Mcgrath's items. I definitely feel like the where she excels. And I'm not always necessarily a fan of things that everybody else is a fan of. For instance, in her eyeshadows, I'm less excited about the special shadows than I am the very shiny metallic shades that don't have the little pinpoints of light. Not that there's anything wrong with the pinpoints of light one, those are lovely as well, but that's not necessarily my thing. So as a big Star Wars nerd and a makeup lover, I came into this definitely interested in some of the items and wanting to see what they were. I did not have the Midnight Sun palette, and I did like the color story. I had watched Alicia Archer do swatches of that palette, and I liked all the color story of that, the shadows, and I had thought before that I might pick that up on a sale, but I was really glad I waited because I really do like the Star Wars packaging, and we're going to look at that in just a second on the Midnight Sun. I was wanting the color story, and I loved from both the collector's standpoint and from an eyeshadow standpoint what the Midnight Sun was. And I looked at the other ancillary eyeshadow palettes, the three, and I ended up picking up one of them, and I'm going to talk to you about why I didn't pick up the other two and why I might go back and pick up one of those in just a moment. So anyway, my lovely Venn diagram. I know the people that are Pat Mcgrath collectors who already had the Midnight Sun palette but weren't necessarily Star Wars fans but were collectors were kind of upset about this because their value added wasn't happening from the Star Wars collaboration. They already had the palette, but it was kind of that butthurt moment when it's like, I want to have the Pokemon moment, gotta catch them all, but I technically already have this one, and so I'm mad about it that if you're launching, a mothership, why couldn't it be a new one? And then you've got people who are upset about the change in packaging with the sticker. I happen to be a person, I'm gonna go ahead and put this down now. You've been able to see my lovely Venn diagram. The people that didn't like the packaging, I'm gonna show you this, and then we're gonna start talking about the other elements, because we're not going to put this one on today. But this is the packaging that it comes in. I really love this. I have not loved the Pat Mcgrath outer packaging of any of her former mothership palettes. I just haven't. They're interesting, I guess, but I don't love them. And I hate the fact that all of the interior palettes are black and you can't tell them apart. So if you take them out of their packaging, you don't know what you're getting. But for this one, I really do love the box And then when you open it, I took the palette out, but here you have it looks like that interior and have the shadow names on that. And then here is the exterior packaging. Now, this is, they're calling it a sticker. I feel like that's not really a good way to talk about them because it is a textured, and it has the divots here and the Pat Mcgrath Labs logo. So I actually very much like this. And I know I'm not the only one. I know Heather Austin was saying about how she was enjoying the packaging. This is very heavy because it is the regular Pat Mcgrath, the motherships. So it's very heavy, so I don't love that. I actually did like when, like with the Bridgerton collection, things were in the cardboard packaging, but had the artistic stuff on the palette itself, and it didn't come in a box, because I really do find that annoying, because even if I love the box that it comes in, if I have to take the product out to use it, I'm less likely, because it's fussy. I have to take it out from the packaging, put it back in the packaging. But anyway, this I could completely get behind. I don't know, I haven't decided yet whether I'm just going to keep this and not have it in its packaging or keep it in its packaging, but I do intend to use this palette also. And I feel like we're probably in the future going to be a dedicated, we're going to be doing a dedicated video to this. But anyway, you've probably seen other people do justice to the shadow. Now my lighting tonight is, again, it's evening time because I'm off work, but it's just not doing justice in my lighting to this shadow here, the really shimmery, more periwinkle shade. And then this is a green tinged a little bit brown, but more of a soft, a deeper green. And again, I'm going to do a dedicated video to this and do it in like morning lighting when you can actually see the shadows. But anyway, so I am not mad at all about the whole sticker gate. I think this is great. I don't mind at all paying the extra money from, it's the same as a regular mothership palette, but it's not on sale, and the Midnight Sun was on sale before this. So I don't mind paying the extra money for this packaging. I like it a lot. I'm not mad at all. So I'm happy I picked this up. Now, what did I pick up otherwise? I picked up the Sith Seduction palette, the Darth Vader palette. This is the paper outside of it. I will probably break this down a little bit and scrapbook it, because I do have been keeping track of some of my favorites this year. In my bullet journal, I've been scrapbooking some of these things, which we probably can look at later if you'd like. But anyway, the palette itself, and I'm glad that this can just go in my collection as is. So it is a paper packaging, cardboard covered in paper, and I actually think it looks a little bit like a present with the blue paper. The back has, now this sticker is just kind of silly in the fact that it's bright white. Of course it's not going to look good. Who did think that that was going to look good? I don't know, but technically you could probably take this off, and this is shiny enough and slippy enough that it may be able to peel off without much problem. And I don't necessarily feel like I need to save the shade names, so I may end up just taking this off. But other than that, it does look like a little wrapped present. And then you open it up and it's got 5 shimmers, and these two are really close but just slightly different, and I'll put up some pictures of swatches. So I decided to swatch these close together so you could see what the difference is between them, because I feel like that's one of the things with palettes, whenever they have the different shades that are really close, far apart, you can't really see how close they are. And then this is more of the murky green, and it's darker, like a brown green. And then this is a beautiful, like a sparkly blue. And this is more of an orange red. And I'm going to swatch this because I'm going to show you the difference between these, this color and the one in the Colorpop Darth Vader palette. But anyway, there's your shadows. Now I did not pick up the C-3PO palette, because I did pick up the Colorpop C-3PO palette, and looking at the the Pat Mcgrath one, it didn't look to me like it was going to be giving me anything than just kind of neutral shadows. And I have a lot of really high performance neutral shadows that are not, you know, C3PO, that are not in that so not as much golden in that palette, but more of the orangey peachy with a little bit of gold and a little bit of brown. But it wasn't really like what I would be looking for if I was looking for just straight up that C3PO gold. And so I passed on that one, and I passed on the Divine Droid, the R2D2 palette, because as I was looking at the Pat Mcgrath swatches, I wasn't as attracted to the purple and the pink. It looked like the purple looked like a more brighter purple, but not in the kind of way that I normally would like. And it wasn't until I started seeing people swatching in real life and using on their eyes the Divine Droid palette that I came to realize the Pat Mcgrath, different other. It's been a long, long day. That the Pat Mcgrath swatches on the website, as always, I know they're problematic, but that purple shade in the Divine Droid is a really deeper, more lovely purple. And so I've been thinking about going back and picking up the Divine Droid. It has not shown up on Sephora yet. The C3PO palette, the golden one, and the Midnight Sun one have shown up on Sephora, but Divine Droid has not. So I was kind of thinking, okay, do I wait a little bit longer? Divine Droid is still available on the Pat Mcgrath website, so I may end up ordering it from them. And oddly enough, this year Pat Mcgrath was not the longest wait for shipping. Glamlight took over that notorious trophy for that one. But anyway, so I've considered doing that. So now, why do I, you know, feel like as a geeky person, as a collector, and as a person who loves Star Wars and makeup, I have the Darth Vader palette, and I picked up this Darth Vader palette, and some of it was for those two darker shades that feel really interesting to me, like the deeper greenish, murkish, and then the other one, which is that kind of blue dazzling. So this is the Darth Vader palette. Sorry, I didn't want to blind you, but I wanted to show you from Colorpop. And so this one here is dark black with the kind of imperial red sparkles in it. And if you blend it out a lot, the sparkles will go away. You can kind of tap it down and keep some of it, and if you want, wet your brush. And then we have the grays and the magentas, and then these kind of silvery colors here. This color was what I wanted to swatch for you to compare it to the one in the Pat Mcgrath, because they're basically, for all intents and purposes, the same color. The Pat Mcgrath one feels a lot wetter, more wet, and it is more of a sheen, but they're clearly nearly the same color there. This one is a little more orangey and a little more shimmery than the other. They definitely feel different to the fingers, but both of them are very, very metallic and sheeny and lovely. But I was interested in those other shadows with the Sith Seduction. So I did pick up that. The rest of my Colorpop collection, this is the C3PO palette for that. Love the artwork, love the light packaging, love the fact that it has the cute package stuff. And this has a lot of the golds, different golds, like more of a rose gold, regular gold, lighter yellow gold, and then a dark brown matte, and then the shimmers down here even more so. So this is a very shimmery, but a palette that does have a darker like weight to it. And I appreciated that over the Pat Mcgrath Labs one. Sorry for bumping you. I love my Mandalorian palette. This is Mando. And this is a great shade in this. It's a little duochrome, little silver, green, brown, reddish. It's lovely. So I like this palette. And then my absolute favorite, this checks all of the boxes. It has the absolute cuteness. It's absolutely geeky. As cuteness there. And I love the color story. This is actually one of my, sorry for blinding you again, lots of light going on here because it's dark outside. This has been one of my most worn palettes this year. I love this palette. If something happened to this palette, I would automatically rebuy it. I believe it's still available at the Colorpop website because they relaunched it when they launched the Mandalorian, the Mando palette. And then I do have, this is the Star Wars Colorpop, and it has, instead of a mirror, it has also this old, the artwork for Star Wars. I keep wanting to call it the original series because it's episode, episode 1, 2, and 3 are actually later on, and the first one is episode, the episode 3. You say you've got 4, 5, and 6. But here's the color story for that. This one is a more red, and it's more on the blue red. Let me go ahead and swatch it. In this light, it's looking a little more like a, into that true red. Maybe it's not looking quite as orange because you have the other ones that look definitely more orange in this than red. So anyway, that's the difference. And this one has both a silver and a gold and some strange mixed colors there. When you end up mixing them up, let me do this. They lose that look as you're blending them, so they're not, but really pretty. Okay, so let's put on some makeup and talk. I'm going to use all Pat Mcgrath products. My base is actually a Wet n Wild, but I'll put on some gloss. This is the Secret Lover. The Star Wars one for this just has a Star Wars sticker there, and I did not pick up any of those glosses because the glosses are beautiful, they're nice, but I don't necessarily need something with just a Star Wars sticker on it. I have lots, not to say I wouldn't, but I have a gloss already that I like, and I have a lot of things with Star Wars on them, so I really don't need that plain of a sticker. So anyway. It's nice vanilla scented, neutral pink. This gloss, it's not heavy, but it has some body to it. So it isn't necessarily sticky, but it's a little bit closer to that than some of the more lip oil kind of feelings. I'm gonna put on some blush. We're gonna use from the Bridgerton collection. And again, I really do like this, the cardboard packaging with the art on front, so I can see what colors that I've got. Now Pat did give me with the Bridgerton collection also as a collab. I love Bridgerton. The second season a little bit less than the first, but still I enjoyed it quite a bit. So I'm going to put on the brighter blush tonight since it's evening and we're getting into Sith Seduction. So this is the first season collab with Bridgerton. So I'm not wearing any bronzer tonight. I'm just going to be putting on makeup. And we can corral this if it gets a little too exciting. Okay. All right, so we're gonna go into Sith Seduction. So while I'm doing this, I'm going to be using my Colorpop The Child palette. So the geek factor with this. It's been one of those things that a lot of times people don't recognize that geek girls like to wear makeup too, that you're not just, losing your femininity. And it also kind of doesn't fully embrace the fact that you have a lot of men who wear makeup who are geeks who love makeup also. So there's a large swath of people that really are prime for this sort of geek collecting and makeup collision. I'm gonna do my light shades first, because I think once we go dark, it's gonna go dark fast. So I think that with this collection, you have that crossroads of the Venn diagram, like I showed you, the people who are geeky, who love makeup and who love Star Wars. And I think that a lot of times when people think of geeky people, they're thinking of a certain stereotype or a certain type of geek. And it gets really frustrating because sometimes, you know, and I'm older, but it used to be, I'm gonna use my finger for this because I'm gonna get a little bit more sparkly of a read, that they used to be the thing like geek girls, like kind of like the thing about like the girl boss thing. It's like you had to have your own category because you weren't in the same strata as other geeks. You were a geek girl, which meant different things. And that's kind of changed some, which was nice. You have people who can be geek girls of a lot of different flavors. And I think that people also, when they think of geeks, it's kind of a monolithic thing. Like, you know, it used to be the stereotypes of the guys with, you know, like Revenge of the Nerds, and they had the pocket protector and their pens, and things like that. But we kind of figured out, like, the problem with looking at geek as monolithic is that, okay, I'm going into the red shade now, and I'm actually going to use it as kind of a crease color, even though it is a shimmer color. But you had this sort of notion that there was some kind of a contest to see if you were really a geek, like if you know, were legitimate. And so there were certain questions that people would throw out to be kind of gatekeepers, like, are you really a geek? And that was hard sometimes because being a geek is such a wide swath of things. Are you good at math? Are you good at science? Are you good at, you know, the computer world? Are you good with entertainment, you know, or media? Where does your geekdom lie? And it was really illuminating. I had some friends here in LA that they wrote books on Transformers, not necessarily the movies, but more the old cartoons and all of everything Transformers. And so they had a huge depth of knowledge about Transformers. And so we started having geek brunch, is what we called it. And there was this little pub in Burbank that we would meet about once a month or so. And we would get the English breakfast, where you had, like, you know, the English breakfast tea, and you'd have the bangers, and you could get, you know, the tomatoes and the you know, so the full 9 yards. But anyway, we would talk about all things geeky. So we'd have geek brunch. And later on, one of the gentlemen had a girlfriend that he wanted to bring to geek brunch. And so he said, you know, well, we'll go ahead and run her through her paces to see if she's a geek or not. And the funny thing is, like, all of us had such different areas of, like, our expertise. I knew a lot of Star Wars. I knew a lot of Star Trek. I knew a lot of Xena Warrior Princess. And I'd been a video game reviewer. So I knew a lot about video games. So, you know, and I had a strange knowledge of, like, cheesy 80s movies, like everything from, like, Conan the Barbarian to You're the Hunter from the Future, and ones that people, you know, they're really awful movies in some ways, but they have that whole so good it's bad. I'm gonna go in now with this green color to the edges, and then I think I'm gonna go under my eye with the deep smoky blue is where I think we're going. I'm gonna do this with this brush, and then I'm gonna go in with a pencil brush underneath. But anyway, back to Geek Brunch. So the one gentleman's girlfriend, we decided that we would all ask her questions. And by the time, whenever she got, I think it was 5 or 6 right, then she could be part of the Geek Breakfast. And the funny thing was, we weren't totally serious about that. We really would not have not let her come to breakfast, you know, if she had not been able to answer things, because we're not dicks. You know, we really aren't. We weren't doing that to be, you know, gatekeepers to all things geeky, to decide, you know, we're the arbiters of not good taste, but geek taste. But anyway, the fun part of it is that we all went around and asked these questions, and we were all so excited about what the other person was going to ask and to see if we could answer it. And especially because all of us had such very different backgrounds. We had some anime people, and anime is not my framework, so I was stumped. I'm like, well, if this was my question, I wouldn't be able to get to it. And then, you know, like I mentioned, mine is a lot of movies, some video games, things like that. And the woman in question, the girlfriend in question, has a huge knowledge of things like My Little Pony, which technically at this point is falling into that geek category. But she also had a big anime notion, and she also made costumes, which now she works in costumes in Hollywood. She's a costume designer. But she had a lot of time going to a lot of the conventions as a costume maker, and some fairly interesting ones. Like, she ended up going to one of the furry conventions. LA is a great place for conventions, and just interesting all the way around. So anyway, by the end of it, she had stumped us on some of her questions. And so not only we were, you know, enjoying ourselves, plumbing the depths of our geekiness, but we were being introduced to things that we really, you know, didn't know ourselves from somebody that we were welcoming into the community. And I think that's the best case scenario. I'm gonna take some of the red and put it right in the inner part. I just think it'll be fun. But this whole notion of somebody thinking that they're going to be a bar to people who are geeky, or are going to be the arbiters of geekdom, or that girls can't be geeks, or people of a different culture can't be geeks, just is really disappointing, because I feel like geek culture should be really inviting and reasonable, because a lot of the things that in the geek world are predicated on difference, on the alien, on the strange, on the completely new and different, on the exploring and the differences, and being really excited about that. And so I feel like that kind of gatekeeping to geekdom is super toxic and not really upholding the tenets of what I think should be geeky, should be the geek world. So for me, I just am very excited whenever I see something that, you know, or someone or something that's really excited about the world that's geeky and what it means to them. And I understand that there's certain places that, you know, are not as welcoming, where you'd want to let your geek flag fly. I'm going to put some of this red in my corner too, because even though I like the light, I really want to look red in the eye, apparently. Okay. But I do appreciate, in my current workplace, we have, you know, I'm working currently in medical research and clinical research. But we have a large swath of people that are pretty geeky and geek overlap. We have a lot of Harry Potter. We have a lot of Doctor Who. Now I'm going to go for that blue underneath, and I'm going to try and make it really messy and under for this. So I feel good about that whenever we have internet social gatherings. So they do have like water cooler moments over Zoom, that we can have all sorts of discussions like that. During this last year, because of the One Ring, the new Amazon J.R.R. Tolkien, you know, like the Fellowship of the Ring and all those. We've had a lot of interesting discussions about that. Part of my master's thesis involved Beowulf, which was one of the things that J.R. Tolkien, who is a medievalist, got some of his inspiration from for The Hobbit, was Beowulf, because the end of that, well, we could go on about that, that's part of my geekiness, but I really enjoyed the fact that people that I worked with, that we could have all sorts of conversations. But I like the fact also that I can, you know, be interested in makeup and other things, a lot of other things that are not, you know, geek expressive, and feel good about that and not feel like I'm being pigeonholed, like, oh, you're a geek, that's all you can ever do. So I feel like that's kind of the widening of it, is can I have this part of me that's a geek and part of me that's a makeup lover and part of me that, you know, enjoys poetry and long walks on the beach, you know, and have that be a whole person that's not confined to any of this. And that's a long way to come about to say I really appreciate the collaboration of a property, of an intellectual property like Star Wars, with a makeup brand where I feel like I can get great makeup and have fun with it. Like I'm having a lot of fun right now. And it's helping me get over my stressful day. So I feel like that's pretty good. Okay, so there we go. I think, you know, if I were going to be doing more of it, let me take a look at it. Hold on a second. Okay, so yeah, it's a little messy and probably I could clean that up, but this was just kind of for me to enjoy playing. Okay, here we go. All right, that's not bad, and there's technically not a lot of fallout right now from that. Let me put my spectacles back on and we'll chat. All right, there we go. So I feel like these are really fun palettes. You know, there's interesting color stories. It definitely, if you are a Pat Mcgrath fan, some of these colors you may already have. And I feel like I said, usually I go to Alicia Archer for the geek meets, you know, the massive collection of Pat Mcgrath shades to be able to compare to. She has a good eye. She makes good swatches. But this is the Sith Seduction, and I'm not at all upset that I got it. I'm happy with the packaging. This was a ridiculous choice of not putting it in black, but there you go. And then the outside packaging. Again, I will probably pick up the Divine Droid because I don't, after seeing the swatches of that purple, I do want that. The C-3PO palette, the golden one, I feel like I'm going to be happy with just my Colorpop palette. So I'm going to be happy with this guy, I think. And that way also to the, you know, with there being 3 of the quints, if I have 2, it's balanced. So for me, I kind of feel okay about that. And like I said, we'll stay tuned. We'll do a dedicated look with this palette as we go. But I just wanted to talk about that, you know, that idea of there's this Venn diagram and it's okay. And to see why people may or may not want to be picking up these palettes. You know, the price point of the quints is kind of a new, you know, entry point for people. Because you know, if you're in the $30 or so range, even though it's expensive per shadow, I mean, these guys, you're talking about between all of them, and they do sales at Colorpop all the time. So, you know, you're talking about between, you know, 12 if it's on sale, like, or 16, 22 for the larger sizes. But you can pick these up and they're very satisfying. Like I said, this little guy has been one of my favorite palettes of the year for both all of the cuteness and for the eye looks, for the actual makeup itself. So, you know, if you needed to get that itch scratched, you could. But I feel like this kind of serves a similar but different purpose than the Sith Seduction does, and the Midnight Sun. And because I did not have the Midnight Sun already, I was much more excited about being able to pick it up in the Star Wars packaging. But to be totally honest, if I had already bought the Midnight Sun, I would still probably have got the Star Wars palette, and I would have given away my just normal, ordinary Midnight Sun palette, because I do appreciate all of that artwork and all of the geekiness. I will say I'm more excited about Pat Mcgrath coming out with this lighter cardboard packaging. I don't care that it's a sticker, you know, lots of other things have stickers on them. And the artwork and the setup mean enough to me that I'm totally okay with having that. I do appreciate lighter packaging because the other ones are harder to hold, and you could like completely damage something with them if they fell off your counter or your makeup stand or wherever. So I'm actually really excited about this. If you want to check out both Angelica Nyquist and Heather Austin have done videos on this launch. There's tons of other people who have too, but I feel like Angelica has a great kind of a geek. She's more of a gamer geek, and she does love Star Wars a lot. So she's a good one to talk to about this. And then Heather was also kind of the same feeling that I am about liking the visuals of the palette, and she is not a Star Wars fan. So I think you can kind of get that notion of where the Venn diagram falls by watching that, because you have a lot of people who are reviewing these who are not Star Wars fans, who are going to be probably a lot harder on that than the people that are Star Wars fans are. So anyway, tell me about what fills your geek heart with loveliness. And if not, tell me about what fills your makeup heart with loveliness. And if the two happen to meet, better yet. So anyway, hope everyone is now having a fabulous evening and enjoying their makeup collection, and we shall see you in the next video. Good night.